I'm Amanda Ziadeh, and with me today is Don Freese. He's Digital Realty's Senior Vice President and Global Chief Information Security Officer. And today, Don is here to talk about data security and compliance in the digital world. Thank you so much for joining me today, Don.
Thank you, Amanda. It's nice to be here.
Of course. So, Don, I understand you've had a really exciting and interesting career so far, from your time spent working for government agencies to your transition into the private sector. So, I was hoping if you could start by walking us through your career and talk a little bit about your role at Digital Realty.
Sure, Amanda. I'm happy to. I joined Digital Realty about 20 months ago. And previous to that, I was a partner with PricewaterhouseCoopers and was working in their implementation operations practice for North America, handling cyber deployments as well as strategy and partnership agreements with different commercial businesses throughout North America. That followed a 30-year career with the United States government, where I retired back in 2019. And that career was the balance of which was with the FBI. And during that time, I worked through the ranks all the way up to senior executive positions and almost 20 years of cyber experience before coming to Digital Realty. And I was a former Army officer before that.
Thanks, Don. So, starting off with something a little more general, from where you sit at Digital Realty, could you break down the current cybersecurity landscape for us and perhaps looking at how it's evolved in recent years and where Digital Realty sits in relation to that?
Absolutely. So digital is a global company. That's the first context point to really think about. And when we say global company, we're not just talking about one or two other countries or one or two other regions. We're really talking about four corners of the globe. So we extend operations through our data centers throughout EMEA, APAC, and Latin America, all the way through North America and into Canada. And it makes it such a challenging and exciting place to work. However, we also face the global adversary environment in a way that is extremely challenging and it's extremely complex. That cyber threat landscape is always evolving, and certainly it has evolved considerably with the geopolitical crisis and different things we have going on in Eastern Europe. And Digital Realty really works hard to stay at the forefront and to stay ahead of that threat. However, it's constantly evolving, just like many of our listeners here today know. It's a very dynamic environment.
All right, makes sense. So let's dive a little deeper into Digital Realty's role in maintaining the security and compliance of that data, as you mentioned. I understand Digital is a business with more than 4,000 customers, ranging from large public sector corporations to smaller enterprises. That's a lot of data that's being captured and processed and stored in your over 300 facilities around the globe, I understand. So, can you talk us through Digital Realty's general approach to data security?
Sure. The first thing is it really is we do take a data first approach to security. So there's a delineation point. We do not protect customers' data that is beyond our boundary. We ensure that customers have the right foundation, and we call that our trusted foundation. So we do provide all the infrastructure and architecture required for customer needs. That's the basis of the data center business, and we're something we take a lot of pride in and we do very well. However, we do protect the data of our own operations. So primarily our data center operations, those are our crown jewels. We keep that priority of the data in those networks, those applications as our principal focus of security. And then our business information. So everything it takes to run and operate our business, we do that up to certain standards specific to jurisdictions and regions where we operate. And we work very aggressively to make sure that we stay ahead of the threat, taking that data first approach and ensuring that our customers know that they can rely on us as a secure partner.
All right. So, can you talk a little bit more about your principles based approach to cybersecurity? What sets you apart?
Yeah, so here's the way of thinking about it for us is really important to understand that as we have this global environment, we've got, first of all, a complex regulatory environment. So we always look at two touchstones. What are we contracting for with our particular customers? And because we cover and provide all sectors, including critical infrastructure sectors, we want to make sure that we're exceeding those compliance requirements for those customers in context with the culture of the region and the jurisdiction of the particular global entity that we're working with. Even if it's a regional entity, we want to make sure that we're really focused on compliance in a way that matters. It makes our customers comfortable with how we're operating. The second part is that internal data focus really making sure that we understand where our data is, how valuable it is, and we take that risk-based approach. The more valuable and the more important or critical the data is to the business operations, the higher levels of protection and the lower levels of access that we create. So we are on a journey to a zero trust architecture, something that we'll be implementing throughout our global networks over the past next 1 to 3 years, depending on which region we talk about. But that's also critical to making sure that we don't allow too much access to data in certain places, but we also protect a really good customer experience and user experience inside of our company.
Okay. And where does compliance fit within all this?
So compliance is an absolute priority. It's that connection point between ourselves and the regulators of the governments. For those, when I talk about jurisdictions, we're talking about those compliance elements. We're also talking about compliance with our master services agreements or our contracts for service. So there's an entire constellation when we talk around the globe of how compliance is focused. We really work through, I'm key allies with our chief information officer, our chief technology officer, and our general counsel, Jeannie Lee. Jeannie and I consult regularly along with our vice president of enterprise risk management to make sure that we're placing the appropriate focus on the risk brought by compliance, how we're investing against that, and making sure that we're grading out appropriately. The most important thing we do with compliance too is ensure that we're just not attesting ourselves, but that we have the appropriate third-party auditors looking at our compliance through our different networks and different locations. And we do that through appropriate third-party certifications as well. And that together, in working together in synthesis and in system, is the way we continue to provide 6 nines of availability and ensure that our customers not only have a trusted foundation for doing business, but they have full confidence in our certifications by third-party audit.
Right. And adding a bit of a different element here, we understand businesses are continuing to realize the benefits of having a multi cloud environment and strategy. So, how does that impact the approach that you take to security and compliance?
Important for many businesses in different ways, particularly in that compliance overlay. For example, with companies who do business with GDPR requirements, they may have certain cloud environments that are necessary in Europe, and they may need to have a clear delineator between those environments and connective points, connectivity or transport layer into North America. That's just one use case and one example where the two really have to work together. Multi-cloud environments are also a way for companies to really hedge against risk and to manage their costs. Whether it's a hybrid on-prem or different public space cloud environment, we work with all major cloud service providers to really ensure that we've got a secure foundation and they can find the least latent, highest and most critical approach to their different elements and data needs. This is the way we're really providing and expanding service for country or for companies all around each different country that we operate in. Having that location to data ratio all the way out to the edge of how we provide data through these different companies and through those cloud services providers makes such a difference for our customers, and they're able to make sure that they have confident, redundant data access wherever they need to provide service.
Well, thanks so much, Don. I know we've covered a lot here today, but wrapping up the interview, I was hoping you could get your crystal ball out and tell us what the future of cybersecurity looks like in your point of view.
Yeah, crystal balls would be nice to have. I've never been great at predictions, but I can, like, just like we started out the interview, and for the practitioners who are listening to this conversation, we know that there are really strong innovations coming both on the defensive side. So, technology and our ability to employ technical countermeasures, as well as to establish that visibility, control, and response that we need to operate in a cyber environment is just critical for all of us. However, the adversary is not only getting more sophisticated, becoming more well funded, particularly because of geopolitical turmoil. There are quite a few different countries who have trained operations teams who are either rogue or they're working outside of normal parameters for cyber. And that's really causing a lot of innovation into the criminal and nation state space that make it very difficult for us all to keep up with. So you're going to keep seeing an increase in threats and pressures from geopolitics. That is really the downside of the way the world's going right now. And we all have to work together. We often say that cyber is a team sport, and that's really consistent in our industry. We work together to make sure that we have as much information as possible to be as preventative posture as possible.
All right. Awesome. Well, like you mentioned, the cybersecurity landscape and the threat landscape is ever evolving. So it's important that we sit down and have these conversations about data security and compliance. So thank you so much for being here today and for diving into this with us.
Absolutely. Thanks again for having me, Amanda. It's nice to work with you.